This dream takes place in the jungle, and it feels like, because we watched science fiction movies yesterday, aliens have invaded. And so different groups are hunting each other in the jungle. And one of the things that we do, we're a small group of people, is we go out as kind of like a decoy. And so we'll have a few people out there in the jungle, and then you kind of try to entice the other side to attack you, and you capture them if you don't get captured yourself. The problem is that if you're out there in the jungle and you're either being the decoy or you're being the group attacking them, they may end up being friendlies, in which case, you can join together and be stronger. Or they'll be aliens, in which case there's a battle. Well, sometimes some people can morph to look like the opposite of what they are. And so the first 2 times I have the dream, we're friendlies. And if other people attack us who are like us, then we can join together. And if the aliens attack us, we can entice them in and do battle. But then the 3rd time I dream the dream, the people that look like us are actually aliens that have disguised themselves. But I seem to know this right away. And so I guess that's one of those skills you have to know. No matter what it looks like, you have to know what they really are.
Which is the condition of things in the outer when people are confused and lost. In other words, they can look one particular way, but what they really understand and consciously are able to take in is something entirely different. And so you're finding that you're having to cope with life in which that which is relatable is something in which there's a similitude or an intertwining that has to do with the way you are able to find yourself and feel yourself in relationship to the whole. And so as you proceed in what is kind of a mayhem of energetics in the wholeness of life, you're able to tell that which is expansive and adds something to you that is like a friendly, and that which may look like you and may seem like you, but isn't yet quickened or awakened, to be able to respond or to integrate, and thus is and can have the sensation of being like an enemy. Or you can have the compassion and recognition that they just are what they are, and that you are able to function in a different space so that you're not affected by them. In other words, the dream is having you look at the contrast of how something can, in one regard, connect and link and be touched, and in another regard, be something that is hostile or foreign or alien. The difference, basically, is in terms of looking at this being sides of yourself. The difference is the degree to which you are able to hold on to that interval or space that has a connection with all that exists in an undifferentiated manner. That interval in space is where the inner turns to the out-breath. To the degree to which you don't, on an energetic level, hold on to that space, you see yourself then as having to figure out who the friendlies are and who the hostiles are. And you see yourself as in a universe or a world of energy in which you hold yourself in such a way so that you draw things to you and sort it out that way. Or you go the opposite direction and you proceed out and reach out to touch or to poke things. And in each interval, you have to quickly be on guard if it is something that is foreign or alien and may look like you but isn't able to be like you. So this is also your way of being able to see in life that, energetically speaking, where there is a cohesion that can come together as if light recognizes light or likeness recognizes likeness. And the dilemma of this dream is that there's actually a space in which none of that needs to affect you one way or another. That is the overall space, true, and it is what exists out there. And of course it would be extremely confusing if you were having to understand this strictly based upon the reflections in which what you're able to sort out and understand over here will not make any sense in terms of what is happening next over there, and that all of this will be most confusing in terms of looking at it in terms of social, economic, or spiritual. To make sense out of it, you have to be at the point where whatever there is that's in existence or in manifestation is just acceptable to you, because you sit in this interval before manifestation or a setness is able to take in, which is the interval between in-breath and out-breath. It's in this area of a nothingness or emptiness from which everything is essentially created, but then there is this moment in this interval where the switch or the change agents, the evolution, however you want to say that, is not yet designed or set forth. And so when it's like that, if you're able to be in this space, you can be turned this way or that way, expanded or contracted, hit by light or dark, and be able to just go with the flow without your mind getting caught up in whether this is right or wrong, or whatever the usual nuances are to tear and twist a person up. You're able to accommodate that because there has been no divine decision or determination upon which to set the clock of manifestation. And so it sits in a type of momentary limbo. Now, the time of when that turns into maybe the next round of things or the next setness of life going forward, or in which there is kind of a linkage or connection that comes back in as a collective a quality of light, that hasn't happened yet. Instead, the light of the old era has ended, so that the values that are possible in terms of the inner light to the outer manifestation can't evolve or shift. That state exists for who knows how long, because the aspect or consequences of time and space do not yet come into play when you're at this interval between the inner and the outer. Ultimately, of course, they will come back into play, but right now you have no out-breath that brings the seed down, nor do you have an in-breath that takes something back that keeps the cycles of creation viable. And so in your dream, the degree to which you're able to gracefully be in this space, the degree to which you struggle to be gracefully in this space, is presented by the way you attempt to orient yourself in terms of, on one hand, trying to draw something to you, almost as a setup, as a baiting, all the time cognizant that it may not be like you, and it might be an enemy or a hostile, or flipping it around that you can take an initiative and go out and stalk something, knowing full well that you might creep up on something that looks like you but isn't like you. That, in other words, that just doesn't have what is necessary as a light from which something can happen. This description of what and how you're looking at it is reflective of how it is that you are existing. In other words, you could exist in this interval where the inner and the outer have not yet, something hasn't clicked yet, and it's just a nothingness and emptiness that encompasses it all before the next play or round begins. You could be sitting there, but you're not quite actually totally sitting there. You're being thrown, you're yo-yoing about, you're bicycling about, trying to figure out how to make the best of it, where you have an inkling, but you haven't gotten the full download or the full letting go. This is a quality of letting go, and the degree to which you aren't quite doing it. So you're still having your nuances and your reactions because you're still buying into something instead of just the pure essence of that interval.